initially I got interested in an early form of Christian meditation called contemplative prayer. The more I learned about it, I wanted to know about its origins, and so I read the Desert Fathers, and then I began to learn about monasticism and early monasticism, and that inevitably led me to a guy named the Venerable Bede, who was a famous early church historian. He lived in the 7th century and wrote a history of the English church and people that is arguably the first true history written of England. Remarkable man. Lived his whole life he was an oblate. An oblate is someone who is donated by his family as a small child to a monastery. The Bede was donated to the monastery at Monkwearmouth, Jarrow, when he was 7 years old, and it's a good chance he lived there his whole life and literally never traveled beyond the boundaries of the monastery, yet he spoke 3 languages fluently, wrote oodles of books, including the first true tide chart. He calculated all the tides for all of the British Isles, and it was so accurate that his tide charts were still being used by the Royal Navy into the 16th century. That's pretty remarkable for a guy who lived in this one little isolated spot. But he wrote this amazing history, and I picked it up. I'd heard of the Dark Ages all my life, and they were kind of a curiosity to me, exotic, because they were this place, they were dark. Nobody knew anything about them, I thought. Well, I find this book and I start reading it, and I'm finding out not only what people were thinking in England in the Dark Ages, but even what they were saying, their speeches. People said, so-and-so said this, and thought this. And it sort of began to come to life for me, and I began to realize there's not one novel in here, there are probably 20 good novels in this book, and I'd like to write at least one of them. There's something enchanting about the notion that you can travel to, however vicariously in a novel, you can travel to another time period and inhabit it for a while. It's one of the wonderful things about doing the research for and then writing a novel like this is I got to do that. And if I've succeeded, and I hope I have, my readers will as well. So that's a big chunk of it, and they'll learn, that while the foreground, the forestory is all fiction, the background, everything that happens in the novel, politically, religiously, everything else that's going on in Northumbria at this time period is historically accurate. So whether they like it or not, they're going to enjoy it, and in the background, they're going to be learning a lot about Dark Ages history. But then also there's this story. I think it's a pretty good story of this young boy who is dumped when he's a very young kid, maybe only 5 or 6, into this strange place that he doesn't understand, full of dark men wearing dark clothes. And his father abandons him there. He's an oblate. But he doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know what these people are. And it's told from his point of view, and he grows up in this unusual, odd world. And a major issue for him as an oblate, and I think it would have been, as today it would be for any orphan, I think, is parenthood and the sense of abandonment and loss and who is my father. And I think all of us, to one degree or another, feel a little abandoned from time to time. Like, how did I end up in this world? It may not be a monastery full of, but it is. Sometimes it seems to be full of dark people wearing dark clothes. And I don't know any of them. And yet, Winweed, who's the main character in this, comes to, by the end of the book, a sort of resolution of all those issues and feels a sense of belonging in this strange place, and is more comfortable with his lot in life. And it would be my hope that my readers may get something of that from the book as well. Well, my publisher, Ron Souter of Seekin Publishing, is just this wonderful guy who, I'd given up on trying to find a publisher. I'd written the book and worked for, 3 or 4 years trying to get it published. And nobody, if your name wasn't John Grisham or Stephen King, they weren't returning your calls. And for my own mental health as much as anything else, I decided I had to back off a little bit. And then this fellow in Salisbury who's got a small publishing company read one of my poems in the Delmarva Review, liked it, and called me up and wanted to know if I might be interested in doing a book. I said, I already got a manuscript. I sent it to him, and he fell in love with it. We just found out, and this is Ron, the Kirkus Reviews is a magazine that booksellers and librarians and the like in the publishing industry use to make their annual purchasing decisions. Well, the Kirkus Reviews just gave it a starred review, which they only, according to their website, they only award to books of exceptional merit. Whoa, I'm over the moon. It's incredible. He's pushing me to write another book.
We would like to caution anyone going out of the library to be very careful.
That was God, just so you'll know.